So the Republicans still have no speaker, still have no speaker that they want to vote for. So the House is now on day 3, now day 4 or day 5, whatever, of not having a speaker of the House. Uh, Kevin McCarthy has had 11 bids to become speaker, and it has been 11 failed bids. That's incredible. 11 failed bids, meaning that he does not have a majority of votes, 218, in order to become speaker. So, the Democrats are just being little sheeps and little sheepdogs and lapdogs for the Democratic Party, because they are uniting against a guy who is more right wing than the right wing itself, Hakeem Jeffries. And the reason that I'm doing this video is, remember what the Squad did in 2020 when we wanted to hashtag force the vote. It was to get Nancy Pelosi to bring Medicare for all to the floor for a vote on the House floor. Even if it failed, it didn't matter. We just wanted Medicare for all to be on the floor for a vote, because AOC and Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, Raul Grijalva, Pramila Jayapal, Marie Newman, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, and Monter Jones, and all these guys said, "Oh my God, we can't get a vote in the House on Medicare for all." Huh? We can't get a vote, huh? I wonder why we can't get a vote. So they said, well, and Ro Khanna and all these guys, we need to force the vote. Well, they didn't do it. They kept making lies up. They said that it would hurt the movement. They said that Kevin McCarthy would become speaker. The dude can't even become speaker now. So it wasn't, none of it was true. And media outlets like the Young Turks, The Intercept, and others were running interference for these for these crooks, for Nancy Pelosi, for AOC, and the rest of them. And AOC started lying about Medicare for all, and lying about forced to vote. And even Justin Jackson, the football player, I forget who he plays for, an NFL player schooled her on it and went at her on it. It's funny. And he caught her in the lies. And they started attacking healthcare activists. Remember, they said that we were committing violence with our words, and that they said that I was committing violence because I was asking our politicians, mainly the Squad, to use their leverage to force the vote, to get our concessions met, to get Nancy Pelosi to meet her concessions and meet our demands, or she wouldn't become speaker. And we wanted them to withhold their vote for speaker and prevent her from becoming speaker unless she brought Medicare for all to the floor for a vote, right? Well, they said that we were committing violence when we were asking for that, and that I apparently had a problem with women of color. Well, my mom, my cousins, my sisters, everybody there. I live with people of color. I live with Mexicans. I'm Mexican myself. I have college classmates who are women of color. Me asking for a vote from our politicians was apparently seen as me having a problem with women of color. I don't see how. They said I was homophobic and xenophobic. They said that to Jimmy Dore. They said that to Aaron Mate, the Democratic Socialists of America. They said we need to do. They said we needed to force the vote. 2 years ago, or what was it, in 2018? 2 years before forced the vote. But they never did it. They never. In fact, they ran interference for politicians, and they said, "Oh no, we can't do it. We can't do it," because Jimmy Dore had pioneered it. And guess what? We came on the channel. We agreed with force the vote, and everyone said we were committing violence. Okay, because the genocide we're doing in Yemen is not genocide. It's not violence. Okay, so the reason I made that long intro is GOP operatives, so not operatives, but there's a GOP faction, a faction in the GOP that are being rebels, and they are using their leverage to get concessions, basically preventing Kevin McCarthy from becoming speaker. That is a little weird. I wonder why they would do that. I don't know. It seems like they have a problem with women of color. They're committing violence against women. Right? even though females are also doing this. Female politicians. So they're doing the right thing. They're withholding their votes for speaker from Kevin McCarthy unless he meets their demands, and he's not willing to because he's a corporate shill. All of these guys are corporate shills, by the way. But what do they want? They want bills to become public at least 72 hours before they're voted on. I agree. They want to vote on issues individually rather than bills to be voted individually instead of a bunch of issues being crammed into one bill, just willy-nilly, just crammed in. It's all crammed. They don't want that. They want all bills to be voted on individually, which I think is a good idea. And they want it to be public so you can view it. And then they also want to be able to remove the speaker at any time if they feel that the speaker is not working in their interest or in the interest of the people. Now, they also want to do things like cutting food stamps and Social Security and cutting lunch programs for kids and all of that we don't agree with. But on those things, Kevin McCarthy can't even budge. He can't even meet 2 out of 3. But they wouldn't settle for 2 out of 3. They want 3 out of 3. So... And among other things that they're asking for. So let's look at Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz said this on the House floor.
Maybe the right person for the job of Speaker of the House isn't someone who wants it so bad. Maybe the right person for the job of Speaker of the House isn't someone who has sold shares of themselves for more than a decade to get it.
Wow.
Maybe Jim Jordan is the right person for Speaker of the House because he is not beholden to the lobbyists and special interests who have corrupted this place and corrupted this nation under the leadership of both Republicans and Democrats.
Now, I really love that. Although Jim Jordan is not the guy. He's equally as corrupt. He's equally terrible, and he's got a sexual assault case or rape case against him from male wrestlers. So I don't know that that's the guy that we want. But the point is, look at him calling out both political parties. I like Jimmy Dore. I imagined a Democrat standing up there, one of the progressives, one of the members of the squad, because they were supposed to vote together, saying, yeah, we don't want we don't want Nancy Pelosi as speaker because she is selling shares of herself and she's $100 millionaire and she just gets tax cuts for herself and her husband. And all she does is lobby for the special interests and the corporate interests and the oligarchy. She supports the oligarchy and she is the reason we have this, the corruption. He's calling out both the Democrat and Republican parties. This is incredible. You know, can you imagine someone on the squad standing up and doing that? No way. No way. That's exactly what we wanted them to do, is call Nancy Pelosi out. Call Nancy Pelosi out. And they're not doing that. Instead, they're voting for Hakeem Jeffries and not calling him out for his corruption either, even though he has tried to publicly vote the squad out of Congress, support primary challenges against them, all of that. So, okay, now, so just remember, this is what they're doing. They're holding their votes from Kevin McCarthy and nominating other people. And this is just because they're trying to use their leverage to get their concessions met. Now, here's Lauren Bobert. Let's see what she has to say on this. This is crazy.
Let's stop with the campaign smears and tactics to get people to turn against us. Even having my favorite president call us and tell us we need to knock this off. I think it actually needs to be reversed. The president needs to tell Kevin McCarthy that, sir, you do not have the votes and it's time to withdraw. And with that, I yield. Thank you.
All right. Well, see, Kevin McCarthy, everyone's acting like Kevin McCarthy is having the votes and that it's minority rule. It's not. It's majority rule. That's why he's not speaker. He hasn't had the 218 votes. He doesn't have the 218 votes to become to become speaker of the House. And she's saying it there that even Trump can't get this guy to become speaker. He can't get any of his faction to vote for Kevin McCarthy. Now, this is a guy that is running for president, and he needs all the Republicans to vote for him. He needs all of these guys. And, he has Matt Gaetz and Lauren Bobert and Jim Jordan and all these guys. But he needs the never-Trumpers, and he ain't going to get them. So, the fact that he can't even get his own faction to do it, oh, boy. So, I mean, this says a lot about this party, that they're basically saying, hey, we're not going to vote for this guy. This is a continuing battle. And I kind of like this. I don't like Lauren Bobert. I think she's crazy. Shooter's Grill is weird. But again, they're withholding their votes for a reason. Now, let's look at the threats, because Matt Gaetz said that they threatened him and his colleagues behind the scenes. Let's take a look at this.
But we were threatened by my committee chairman to be on the Armed Services Committee, Mr. Rogers, that if we did not vote for Mr. McCarthy, we would be removed from committees. Our position is that if Kevin McCarthy is the Speaker of the House and we don't have an ability to ensure that there is oomph behind the agenda and energy behind our oversight, that the committee assignments don't mean that much anyway. I'm not here to participate in some puppet show where we pass a bunch of messaging bills, send them to the Senate, watch them die, fail to use leverage, and don't hold the Biden administration accountable. I don't want to relive the Benghazi experience where it's just theater pretending to be oversight, right? We can do better than that, and that's our purpose today.
Okay. Sounds simple enough. We don't want corruption in our Congress anymore. We don't want corruption in our party, even though they are all corrupt. Matt Gaetz is corrupt. Matt Gaetz is suffering a federal investigation for sex trafficking charges, bringing minors under the age of 18, minor girls under the age of 18 across state lines. So anyway, and having with them, having sex with them. I hate to say it, but it's true. So there you go. That we don't want Kevin McCarthy, and we don't want the corruption. But they're also saying, he's saying there that they threaten. Oh yeah, you won't get committees, and he's saying, oh well, why am I going to get in a committee? The committees don't mean anything anyway if we're not using our leverage, if we're not using our power, and if we're just passing extremely awful excuses for bills, disgusting bills over to the Senate where they're just going to die because of the Democrats. And then, we're not going to be able to do checks and balances, as that's our job in government, to hold the government accountable, the corrupt-ass government of Joe Biden, the Joe Biden administration, Kamala Harris, and Mayorkas, and Blinken, and all these guys. That's what he's saying. And they're threatening them to, oh my God, committee seats. And the squad were like, oh my God, they were worried about not getting committee seats. So they felt, oh, maybe we should vote for Nancy Pelosi because then we're going to get committee seats. And they didn't even get committee seats anyway. They got their committee seats taken away. That's what happened. They got their committee seats taken away. And then they blamed it on the Republicans who didn't have a majority. Okay, so nice try, but these guys aren't going to fall for that. They're not the squad. They're not weak asses. Because by the way, we only have two right-wing parties. We only have a right-wing party in this country. We don't have a left party. We don't have a democracy. We live in an oligarchy. We live in a corporate-run state. We live in, in a country where the squad supports the oligarchy, supports the corporate rules, supports the establishment, and are war profiteers and war criminals themselves for voting for a lot of these wars and a lot of these bills to fund these wars, like for Ukraine and Israel, and Saudi Arabia. So again, this is what it is. Now, on the Benghazi point, what he's talking about, I hope he's talking about, and Aaron Monte pointed this out on Jimmy Dore, is that the whole thing about Benghazi was it was a gun running operation. It was a gun operation where they were getting guns and filtering them through to filtering them through to through to Syria. They were filtering them through to Syria to fight the dirty war in Syria. They were sending them to sectarian death squads so that they could fight the United States' war in trying to overthrow the Bashar al-Assad government. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to overthrow Bashar al-Assad. They still are, and they're still occupying a third of Syria, the oil part, by the way, and bombing Syria and all of that. Whatever, in the aisles. All across the aisle, they vote for this, whatever, on both sides of the aisle. And so anyway, Christopher Stevens, the guy who was killed there, and his three other brothers, the ambassador, he was there to help be involved in administering all the guns that were filtered through to the sectarian death squads in the dirty war in Syria to try and overthrow the regime in Syria, the Assad regime, the Bashar al-Assad government. That was Benghazi. And what happened was it became a circus, and it became all about Hillary Clinton, which I agreed with, and her emails, but they didn't talk about the real issue, which was the dirty war in Syria, and that we were helping the Benghazi compound was a gun operation to try and get these guns over to Syria, over to the Secretary of Despots to try and overthrow the Syrian government. So, to try and overthrow their government in Syria. So, again, just away from that, these guys are using their leverage the way that we asked the squad to use their leverage. We asked the squad to do this, and they never did. They made a bunch of excuses. A bunch of people like the Young Turks, The Intercept, Kyle Kalinske, the Majority Report with Sam Sater, the Humanist Report with Mike Figueredo, the Rational National with Bob, with David Dole, not Bob Dole, David Dole, Nomiki Konst and Francesca Fiorentini, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, all of these guys, they were running interference for the squad. Ryan Graham from The Intercept, all because they wanted to maintain their access to the squad and to these politicians. That's why, for power, for money, for access into the party, into the club. And the squad never forced the vote. They lied about it. And look at the GOP, look at the Republicans doing force the vote when the squad had the chance to do it, and they never did.